Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and we're back again for a bumper talking tactics show to go over another victory. We're back on the winning trail. Fulham 1, Aston Villa 2. And to join me in our breakdown of the game is our football data analysis expert, Gareth. How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, very well. Sort of relieved, I think, more than anything to get back on it, but not utterly convincing. But the 3 points is what matters, isn't it?
Exactly. At this stage of the season, it is literally just about the points. And with the teams in play for this top four spot, I'm sure there's going to be many twists and turns to come. But it's just about picking up those points. So, yeah, much needed victory in a difficult place that Villa have found over recent years at Craven Cottage, mate.
Yeah, it has been. It's not a bogey ground as such, but it's a funny old place to go, isn't it? And they sort of seem to struggle there in recent years, but we got through it, I think, is what we could probably say on Saturday.
Yes. Well, we've got loads of analysis. We've got our usual vizzes, a couple of additions as well. I know Gareth, he's got exciting news of his venture to come. So we're probably going to tease a few more of these slides as the weeks go by. They're brilliant to give you some more information on the game. So make sure you tune into the shows to see what we've got, and also some still images, our match of the day style analysis as well that Gareth puts a lot of time into. But before we get into it, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We are very close to 3,400 subscribers, which is just tremendous, on the road to 4K. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and get your comments in the chat as well on your thoughts on the performance and thoughts on the analysis, because it might throw up some slightly different things to what we saw in the game. So first of all, the passing networks, Gareth. Pau Torres back in the side, and we saw him heavily linked in the play and setting up the moves.
Yep, nailed it. Yeah, this was always going to be the way that Emery, I should say, wants to go. He wants to play through Pau Torres, and it was quite a surprise for me to see Longley at right centre back. I tweeted that I might think about Chambers there, but given the minutes and that is probably a bit of a poor call from me, really. But I think they both played really well. I've got to say, I think they both had a good game. I can't fault Longley at all. And Pau back in that side, that's where we like to build up from. We've seen now more of that sort of left-sided bias, and that was the highest passing combination was between Martinez and Pau Torres.
Yeah. Anything you're noticing about Villa's shape there at all, or is it kind of par for the course?
Yeah, I mean, I think John McGinn, it went unnoticed what he did in midfield. I don't think he was exceptional, but I think considering we as fans don't particularly like to see him there, I think he did a reasonably good job alongside Douglas Luiz. I don't think you can sort of really fault him. It was a solid enough performance, wasn't it? But not where we sort of want to see him, but he's able to play anywhere, John McGinn.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at our expected threat in terms of the passes and set pieces, Douglas Luiz at the top of the chart there, and then followed up with four Fulham players, in quite considerable threatening positions and threatening passes. Anything to kind of take away from that?
Yeah, at least over a third of it from Douglas Luiz was from set pieces. So you can count 3 corners in that. So the 3 corners sort of were higher than the expected threat value that I monitor it on. So a lot of that, at least 0.3 of that, in fact, was actually sort of from set pieces. So, yeah, I mean, we expect people like Pereira and, Harry Wilson was a substitute, wasn't he? Which is incredible.
Yeah,
really.
he always causes Villa problems when he plays against us.
Yeah, he's a good player, Harry Wilson, and I think Pereira sort of he was playing over part of a front two sort of thing in the first half, and then after the substitutions, he sort of dropped back a little bit. So I think he's expected to get more come in the second half from passes. But again, he's a set piecer, isn't he? So we can take a bit from that. But I expected Pau Torres to be a little bit further up there, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But it is what it is. I would expect those 4 players. I would expect to see those 4 in there.
Yeah, no problem. And then in terms of charting it out, Luiz here had the 0.4 expected threat. You just mentioned it. Quite a bit of it was from set pieces. But talk to us about this slide. What are we seeing here?
Yeah, this is a bit of a work in progress. A lot of people would have seen these types of heat maps about before, but these are sort of the expected his passes, the expected threat value from the passes, and we can see sort of by the color bar on the right hand side which is a higher sort of concentrate, a better value, should I say, and which is a lower value. So the white square in the corner is the corners that I'm talking about, and they were played into sort of a real sort of central area by that penalty spot. So that's why it gives it a bit of a more of a higher expected threat value, if you like. But yeah, it's a bit sort of indifferent performance from Luiz on the ball, wasn't it? And I
Yeah.
think it was kind of hit and miss for him, really.
Yeah, I saw him getting involved in a lot of defensive work, which was good to see from Luiz, more so than getting in and controlling the play and controlling the tempo of the game, which, you've got to show different sides to your game. One thing on that corners point, Gareth, is we seem to, I don't know if it's anything that you've noticed or it's just me on the eye test, is we went through a stage of like loads of different types of corners, like short corners and playing into McGinn, him spinning players, or like dummies at corners, that kind of thing. Whereas the last couple of games, it's been like just get it in the box and try and get someone's head on it. I don't know whether there's like been a conscious effort just to simplify the corner routines a little bit more.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I've noted down here that all in all, we created 0.28 from set plays in total. Now, in the first half, it was 0.23. We only created 0.06 from set plays in the second half. So the first half was almost, we're creating a bit more from set pieces than we were in the second half. I'm not sure you could probably read too much into that, but I think you're dead right. It seems to be more balls into the box rather than this sort of mucking about, sort of the short corner routines and stuff like that. I think away from home, he adopts a more of like a Thomas Frank kind of model where we want to be a bit more solid. We'll get it in the box and we'll just go from there. We don't want to sort of play that much possession based style. I think that's probably what it is. It's kind of risk and reward, I guess.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see if there's any out of the Austin McPhee playbook against Nottingham Forest. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. And then just in terms of the both teams, their locations of the passes, anything to take note here
These are
in terms of us and
Yeah, well,
Fulham?
these are the three corners up there from the villa that I'm talking about by Douglas Luiz. They were played into that central area. And this alludes to what you've just said as well, straight into the box, no mucking about. But they were decent sort of corners. They were into a decent sort of areas.
Yeah. Well, we scored off one, to be fair.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's why the expected threat value goes up a little bit because, they're into good areas. They're from corners, all right. But it's where the pass finishes. That's the expected threat. And that's where they are. And it was important to do that. It was something a little bit different, wasn't it? But the
Yeah,
height hasn't
yeah,
changed. The height hasn't changed in the box who was attacking it. So it's kind of a bit of a switch. Maybe they sort of didn't want to become too predictable and they decide we're going to go this way, for example, and try
yeah.
and catch Fulham by surprise.
Yeah. Well, look, it could have worked because, like I say, I mean, on another day, the line gets drawn and it's onside, and then it's just crazy, this VAR business at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, I personally thought at first glance it was onside, and then when they drew the lines, I thought, hang on a minute, you've moved that line to where. But anyway, I mean, I think it should have stood personally, but we'll
Yeah,
talk about that as well. But I mean, we could argue about the penalty as well. It was a penalty, wasn't it? It should have shoved him straight over.
100% a penalty, 100% a penalty.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was academic in the end, but it couldn't. It could have been really costly. XG, our usual kind of quick look at that. Anything of note here, mate, in terms of spotting any trends or anything that we did or didn't do?
Yeah, well, and again, the shot map flirts with Leon Bailey again a little bit more because you can see we tend to we looked at it before, haven't we? And in previous weeks, we've seen it a lot of shots to this sort of right hand side of the opposition penalty area where Leon Bailey's sort of tending to cut in, and obviously you've got Watkins's goal from that angle as well. So yeah, it was an interesting sort of thing, but we're seeing a lot of that right sided bias now. Considering we build up on the left hand side, it's kind of quite interesting really to look at that.
Yeah, that's true actually. And I guess you want to see as he gets fitter, and if he is going to start playing regularly, is Jacob Ramsey kind of operating in that inside left channel and taking shots from there, because that obviously is increasing the threat of where we can shoot from. So that'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see over
Yeah,
the coming
we
weeks.
saw Jacob Ramsey, didn't we, on Saturday? Have a couple of efforts of him. He to me looked a little bit lacking in confidence in his shooting almost.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. He's the last. I mean, at least he was taking shots in
Yeah,
this game, whereas the week before he was against Man United, he was getting into those areas and then kind of hesitating a bit, not quite knowing which one to choose. So we're
yeah.
getting there with him, and I think that's the important thing. And you can see teams now being a little bit more wary of him when he receives the ball, which is obviously what teams are with Leon Bailey immediately, and you want that for Jacob Ramsey as well, which
Yeah,
is
I mean,
important with these next games coming up.
yeah, it's kind of sort of quite good for us, really, because he's been out for injured, which is obviously not good. But he's coming into an important part, coming back into the side in an important part of the season where teams are not quite as aware of him or remember him as well as what they should do, maybe. So
Yeah,
it's definitely an added threat for us.
yeah, 100%. And then just a quick look at the timeline. Anything of note here that you spotted?
Scoring goals at important times, I think, is probably what we would take from me, sort of after the 15-minute mark and then after sort of, not long after half time. I think they're important times to score goals. All right, Fulham got one back, which sort of made it that little bit trickier for us, but they didn't create sort of any real meaningful chances after that as such.
Yeah, fantastic, mate. Fantastic, guys. Before we get into the stills and the still images that Gareth has analysed, do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and yeah, get involved in the comments as well. So let's take a look at some of the full analysis that you've done, mate. Just let me get it up onto the screen. So yeah, so going to the start, we're looking at the Fulham Press first of all, mate. What did you notice about how they set up to try and put pressure on us?
Yeah, I think we've looked at this. I wanted to highlight this again about our different team and how it's done sort of like away from home against us, if you like, sort of thing. We looked at Newcastle previous weeks and we looked at Manchester United as well. And Fulham, for me, didn't get this quite right, because you're either playing with the two there to sprint onto the centre backs, but then you've still got to leave Martinez free. You're not quite pushing up on Louisa McGinn as much as what you should do. And I think
Yeah,
they're trying to force us wide a lot bit, and we'll get into that as well. But they're trying to force us wide. And I think it was quite easy for us.
it was, and you're surprised because we had the two left footers at defence. You'd think they would force certain scenarios, force them onto their right foot or whatever. And I guess it goes to show that if like we faced a Newcastle who have great pace up front and physicality in midfield at times, and then you face a Man United side who have real pace up front. You can maybe afford to do that pressing, and it makes a big difference. But if you haven't necessarily got that frightening pace, in terms of striking areas, it does make it a little bit easier for the team, Villa in this case, in possession to kind of take that touch, look up, and then be able to make the pass because the press isn't as fierce as it is against those other teams.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to when you look at pressing is intensity and whether you've got the personnel, like you say, that are able to do that. And Fulham didn't have the personnel to do that. It wasn't. You've got to make a choice. You've either got to press Villa high and let them play through midfield and just cover that up and hope they don't break that press, or just sit off.
Yeah,
But like you say, they're not Newcastle.
yeah, yeah. And then just further into that, the defensive shape that they adopted. What were they trying to do here, or what did they? Yeah, how did they set up?
Yeah, the first two slides we're going to look at here, really, and this is the case of Villa, and we've seen it before. Newcastle tried to do it. They tried to force Villa wide. That's what they want to do. They don't want to let Douglas Luiz on the ball. They don't want John McGinn to turn on it, and they want to block off Tielemans and Bailey on Ramsey. Sorry, as the 2-8s. So we've seen it a lot, haven't we? Our box shape. We talk about it a lot. It is all based on us being able to play through central areas. Pau Torres to Douglas Luiz to Tielemans to Ramsey, whatever. We're looking to play and then maybe play out wide. But Fulham tried to force us out wide straight away. And this is what Fulham did. They were set up in a 4-4-2. And Willian, he's going to end up trying to press Cash because he knows that ball's going to end up coming there. So that's what
Shall I
they're sort
move
of
to the
trying to
next
do.
one?
Yeah, go to the next one because they want to try.
Yeah.
They want us to try and play out. They want us to play through Bailey, and they want to choke because Robinson is the fullback for Fulham. He's got the pace to cope with Leon Bailey, so they're happy to do that. But they want to force us out wide, and they kind of got it right, but they kind of then didn't get it right. I mean, Bailey wasn't as effective, I don't think, as what he could have been or what he has been recently. So credit to Fulham for that, but yeah, it was kind of a bit sort of not quite there, not quite there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because they almost had the plan.
Yeah.
But then Silva was so frustrated because at certain points within that plan, they just messed up. Like they had lapses in concentration, or player forgot to do his job, as in the goal that Watkins, the second goal that Watkins scored, where Diop just totally loses him.
Yeah.
And then, there was a couple of situations where Bailey, Robinson did okay against him, but there was a couple of situations where he left him, or he allowed him to beat him. And yeah, they kind of had the plan, but they just didn't execute it at the key times. And then obviously then you're putting yourself under pressure when you go 1-0 and then 2-0 down, because unfortunately that plan kind of goes out the window after that.
Yeah, it does. You're right. And I'm kind of a bit frustrated that we didn't play more down the left with Alex Moreno up against
Yeah.
Castagna. Because I thought,
Yeah.
and even Ramsey, I thought, like you alluded to it again earlier about Ramsey and Moreno being quite effective together against Manchester United, and I thought we could have done the same thing here. I just didn't know why it's almost like Leon Bailey's on the pitch, so we have to play through him.
Yeah. No, it was interesting. It was funny because I guess there's a point where we did get the win. It was great, and we worked really hard for it. But I guess analysing it, you think and yes, we could have had a couple of extra goals and probably should have done. But you analyse it, and you think there were areas we probably could have exploited a little bit better in the game. But like I say, we got the much needed victory that we needed, and maybe that confidence will come through as the games go by. Just deeper, John McGinn. Yeah, you'd mentioned him earlier, playing in a slightly deeper role, did a pretty decent job.
This is what you do get from John McGinn if he plays in a deeper role. He's got that passing range with that wand of a left foot, hasn't he? And a couple of areas here where I can this happened to quite a few occasions where he didn't actually play people in when he could have done. But I just wanted to highlight sort of with the ball at his feet and the space that he had. This is the sort of thing that you do get from him when he is in a deeper position.
Yeah, and look there, you see Fulham just not really doing either. They're not pressing and they're not sitting off. They're kind of in half and half position. So yeah, they just didn't quite get it right at certain times. Cash versus Robinson. This was one of the key battles, I guess, in terms of the game. But what did you notice on how he did against him?
Yeah, this was the sort of the one area for us that I was actually quite worried about was Willian up against Matty Cash, but sort of coped really well, Willian. But it wasn't even that I coped really well. Willian just was like almost a bit of a Leon Bailey type guy. Wasn't quite as effective as what you'd seen him in recent games, and you expected sort of quite a bit more. And I was a little bit worried about sort of Willian coming inside and Robinson on the overlap and Bailey then not tracking. But it didn't quite work for him. Again, it goes back to what you said about their pressing. So they had this plan for Willian to come inside and Robinson to go out. But yeah, it didn't really sort of pan out like that, did it?
No. It was I think they'll be kicking themselves, Fulham. But maybe the way we set up and the way that we played and the way that we were kind of on our, I guess, every player, when you've got a situation where you've got Torres and Longley, not a normal centre-back partnership, you're probably a little bit hyper-aware to make sure that you're covering for them. And I think that's one thing that the players did well. They kind of covered for each other well. And then, like you said before, we scored at the right time. So it was one of those that was kind of a good away performance situation where, we kind of made it effective against Fulham. The man himself, Ole Watkins. What do we need to say about him this week?
Yeah, nothing really. I just wanted to highlight the run from sort of this is from really deep, by the way. This run, this is from sort of like on the halfway line. Well, I say really deep, on the halfway line. Diop tracks him all the way, but yet as soon as Ole Watkins is turned, he's on his bike, he's gone. And that ball from Douglas Luiz again, and we've seen this. Remember the same ball before we saw the outside of the foot? Remind me who scored that. Can't remember. Was it Watkins again?
Watkins scored. Yeah, this was Tielemans though. This pass.
That's right. Yeah, sorry. So it's the same sort of scenarios. So you can patterns of play emerging that Watkins on that run. Fantastic. 13 goals and 10 assists now he's got.
Do you know what I loved about both those passes? Obviously, the Sheffield United one from Luiz, this one from Tielemans, is he didn't have to break stride, and he could just hit it first time. And that's the sign of a brilliant inch perfect pass, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think he's one of those sort of players. He's almost the Darwin Núñez striker of the ball, and he doesn't want a lot of time to sort of think about it, Ole Watkins, does he? He's more of a sort of,
no,
and the way that ball went into the net, he didn't half smash that.
yeah, it's great finish, great finish. One of my favourite types of finishes.
Yeah.
And then finally, he did take the blame on his Villa interview for Villa TV, Emi Martinez. Because I mean, looking at this, I think Cash, yeah, fair enough. He's kind of tracked him, made it a poor cross. Longlay's running in. Maybe it's a fact if he probably he didn't use his right foot. But Martinez obviously accepted the blame for kind of, you know, getting his positioning wrong, maybe calling at the wrong time, and it was a bit of a comedy of errors between the two of them.
Yeah, I mean, I got a bit of stick for this, but I'm glad he took the blame because it was 100% his fault. 100% his fault. He's got no need. He should be sort of where that arrow is. He's got no need to be sort of. He tries to anticipate the ball coming sort of into that area so that he could clear it almost on a longer pass, but that never happened. So, and I felt so sorry for Longley because he's given him a call and Longley's just left it. He's just left it, thinking that Martinez is going to pick it up, but he's in the wrong starting position. I've had a word with a friend of mine, a goalkeeping friend of mine, and even he says that he's 5 to 6 yards too far in front there. He's got no need to do that. He's got to approach and come out to that 6-yard box if that ball then ends up coming to that area because he's causing confusion for his back four.
Yeah, his body position's wrong as well. Like, my son's a young goalkeeper, and I always tell him, like, because from a goalkeeping course training that he goes to every week, they say you got to know where your post is. You got to know where your post is, and he doesn't. He has no idea. He's looking at the play. He's looking there. He doesn't have any idea on where his post is at that position. And if he was a little bit deeper, as that arrow suggests, he would be kind of in line with where he should be and in line with that post, and then he can come out to the ball like you say. He can drop back like you say, but yeah, he's just in the wrong position in that situation.
Yeah, it just shouldn't happen really from there.
Yeah,
It just shouldn't happen.
100%. Well, look, um, brilliant analysis once again, Gareth. Really, really, really helpful. Some great insights there into the performance, and as we've alluded to, it was a really good win, really good 3 points at a difficult ground to go to. But yeah, Fulham are just one of those funny sides, aren't they? They play some good football. They seem to have a good tactical plan, but players in key areas either make mistakes or they're just not quite clinical enough. And we got the 3 points, but it's definitely a game that we should have really be winning anyway. Really, if we want to have aspirations for where we want to be.
We should be now. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we could say the same about a lot of games, I guess. But we should be. I think away from home, we seem to be a lot better, don't we? But I mean, Fulham had a really good run of form, didn't they, just before Christmas?
Mm-hmm.
And sort of they've fallen
Yeah.
away, sort of quite a bit. The team I worry about most, I think, is Manchester United. I think they're probably the ones that can. I know they're hit and miss, but they're just starting to find that little bit of confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. And Nottingham Forest, just to finish up, coming up on Saturday, another game where you're thinking, right, let's get this home form back on track. But they've got some good players, mate. Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, Awoniyi, one of my favourite strikers in the Premier League. Morgan Gibbs-White. They've got some good players going forward. And Nuno, he knows how to set up a team to soak it up and then catch you on the break.
Yeah, we don't want to see that high line, do we? From Unai Emery on Saturday, they got some real. I watched them the other night. They were really really good, and they've got a lot of pace, like you say, especially in wide areas. And you do worry a little bit about that. We have to be aware. I think it's one of them sort of games. Again, you're right. You like the Fulham game. We should be winning these sorts of games at home, but we know how it is, don't we?
Exactly. Well, look, we'll be back with our tactical analysis, win, lose, or draw from that game. Gareth, you've got exciting news about your Twitter page and potential website. So share where people can find it and
Yeah.
find you with your analysis.
Yeah, it's we do a lot of sort of little bits and pieces in the past through EFL clubs and the smaller clubs with not great budgets, or clubs that just want media as well, just do little sort of bespoke pieces of analysis, sort of graphics into their extent. So we're going to try and launch something like that, where there's sort of a rehash of my old website, if you like, but it's going to be a lot better and offer a lot more services, and it will have a quite a heavy Villa bias. All the graphics are going to be on there on a weekly basis, plus all match reports and stuff like that. So yeah, give it a look when it comes.
Brilliant, brilliant. And everyone can find you at Analytics GC, as well as your normal one at That Garage AJC. So yeah,
Yeah, I want
if
to
you
see.
can't
We
find
need to,
Gareth now,
no, we
you
need
know.
to get following that. I've set up a Twitter page for Analytics GC, so we need to get most of our sort of followers and that getting on that as well.
There you go. You heard it here first. Right, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And we'll be back later on this week with Fans Forum, match preview for Nottingham Forest, and obviously your usual match reactions and talking tactics after it. So make sure you stick with the channel, hit like, hit subscribe, get involved in the comments. And as always, remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.